Good evening, everybody. How's everybody going? Hope you're all having a great week. Thanks for coming back and joining us again on another Steve Goodey Wednesday webinar. Woohoo! I can't tell you how much I appreciate you turning up to this presentation via webinar so that I can be sitting here in my bedroom, literally in my slippers, super comfortable, and having a good old gas with everybody. As per usual, there's quite a crowd of people jumping online straight away. See, there's let a few Australians in accidentally. Hi. Whangarei, Taupo, Oamaru, Christchurch, Wendy from Wellington, represent. I want to thank everybody for being here and being on time. It is 7:31 and we are go. So tonight I just really wanted to, I know that I've kind of, in the last few years, been explained as being the boarding house guy. And I love boarding houses specifically because of recycling and cash flow. And so I suppose I kind of wanted to explain a little bit around that and why that is, and show you how I came to this, and equally explain that I'm not just that guy, but like it's an important part of my portfolio these days. And I suppose I really wanted to show you how I sort of got my head around that, and how did I get to this? How did I get to the boarding house thing? So of course, like everybody else online here, I was, how do I put this? Born at a very young age. It wasn't this week. Just had a birthday recently, actually. I know, happy birthday to me. And I wanted to get into property investment. I treated it like Monopoly, which was like, you must buy everything and then put a hotel on top and all that type of thing. And I just thought that more was more. And I didn't think that things like banks saying no to lending me any more money would happen after a certain point. But obviously it absolutely does. So you do need a balanced portfolio, balance between capital gain and cash flow. So I started thinking about that and going, when you buy your first property, you have to save usually for quite some time to get a deposit together. You don't necessarily want to have to do that again. So what most people do when they buy their first property is they buy something that they can add value to, so that they can recycle equity, meaning that you put your deposit in, it values a little bit higher, and you can pull that sum or all of that deposit back out and use that money for your second deposit to buy property number two, saving you from going through like maybe a year or two of having to save more money to get another deposit going. Does that make sense? Please say yes in the comments. So I started getting my head around that and realizing that you need to build equity in your first property, your first deal. But what you want from deal 2, 3, 4, 5 after that is you want stuff that, sure, recycles to a degree, but you also want stuff that's going to cash flow. The reason for that being that not everybody wants to buy a property, keep it for 20 years, sell the property, and then live on the money that it's gone up in value by. A lot of people want to keep their entire portfolio, sell down maybe a couple of properties, and live off the cash flow and keep all of the houses. And so this becomes two very different types of investments. So firstly, I'll give you an example, and this is a property in Bush Street. If you're a fan of my Facebook page, you probably would have seen me purchase this, renovate it, get it all set up and working. So what I did with this particular property was, it's absolutely an exact example of the properties that I used to do. I used to just collect the heck out of these. I had a fat portfolio chocker full of these types of properties. And it's ugly. No, wrong word. Special. So this particular property was purchased very cheaply. It's fully compliant with Healthy Home Standards, would make a great rental. It's going to recycle, meaning that I bought it cheap enough and added enough value by doing things to it. It's going to just recycle, but that's about it. And it's going to be a little bit cash flow negative. So I looked at it and went, this doesn't really fit my personal investing portfolio at the moment, because this doesn't help me buy the next one after this. What it did do, though, and what it was absolutely perfect for, is for me to get my son into his first house. And so this is my 20-year-old eldest son's first property that he purchased himself. to say it was a proud dad moment, bit of an understatement. Saved all the deposit himself, a little bit of help from dad with a bit of knowledge and expertise and bits and pieces. But I want stuff that cash flows right away, and this thing is slightly negative cash flow. It is a 3-bedroom little sort of, I suppose, granny house in the suburbs of Lower Hutt. It's a beautiful, picturesque street with trees and bits and pieces, but it's also, let's be fair, it's a nasty yellow color and it's a slightly older property. So what we've done is roll through this. This is the original photos from when the when the agent showed us through the property. We've got rid of the doily curtains and given it a bit of a clean up and made it a little bit better. We recarpeted, painted all the walls, put some new light fittings in, redid power points and light switches. Spent about $20,000 on just making it compliant, warm, heating it, putting a nice decent heat pump in it. Just nailing all the things that you do up front when you want a long-term rental, so that you don't have to go back and do stuff later on. Makes a lot of sense, right? Now, I know that this home's estimate thing makes it look like we actually paid $375,000. And I'd love to lie to you and say that we got that good a deal on this, but we didn't. That's actually a net figure. So they've taken out channels and bits and pieces. What we actually paid for this property was $405,000. So 1st of September 2022, this thing had a government valuation at $620,000. 9th of March 2023, we actually settled it and paid $405,000 for the property for my son. He did a reno on it, and then it revalued. It revalued at the GV at 620. He's obviously can go in there at that stage. If this was a rental property, he could go in there and get a 60% loan to value ratio mortgage, which means that on $620,000 of valuation, he can get a 60% mortgage and have a loan on the property of $372,000. Now, remember, he paid $405,000, so he's still got some of his money in there. So he hasn't been able to 100% take his money and his renovation capital back out. We paid $405,000 for this. So this project did make money. It made the difference between the $405,000 he paid and the $620,000 it's worth. Paper equity, which we can't eat. We can re-borrow quite a bit of it, but we really can't untap this for equity. But he's got equity in there. It's ticking over. It's a great property. So the project made money, but it didn't recycle, meaning he didn't get all of his money back. And if he rented this property out, it would be costing him about $50 a week to own it. Not bad. But let's think about me and let's think about you in this particular situation. If you could find 100 of these properties, how many of them could you buy? Now, you would eventually run out of deposits because you couldn't save the deposit quick enough and it doesn't 100% recycle. But you would also start to run out of cash flow because if something costs you $50 a week but is going to make you money way later on, you can probably buy 2 or 3 of them. But if you can't buy 10 or 15 of them, at some point, the bank's going to go, whoa there, big fella, you can't borrow any more money. We need to wait until your cash flow recovers or rents go up or natural appreciation occurs. Now, the thing I hate about natural appreciation is that it's really slow. I want stuff that moves along a little bit quicker. And so I started thinking about that and going, maybe this isn't the asset class that I want all of my properties to be. Makes a lot of sense. So I then started looking at what cash flows quicker and might recycle a bit better. And so eventually I started looking at smaller units instead of 3 bedrooms with a lot of section, and you've got to pay for all of the section, all of the house. You've got one income stream, and if that one tenant leaves, you have no income streams, and you're basically vacant or out of business as a property investor for a while. What looked better to me started to be blocks of flats. One building, one section, 5 or 6 income streams on it. Studios, units, blocks of flats, whatever it may be. They tended to yield higher and work better. They also tended to be able to be renovated very easily and therefore have a capital gain involved, which means that it was easier to recycle and to turn that equity back out again. The only problem with that was studio flats meaning one bedroom, also have one kitchen and one bathroom. So if you buy 5 studios or 5 one-bedroom flats, you've got to renovate 5 bedrooms, 5 lounges, 5 bathrooms, and 5 kitchens. Once again, the renovation capital required starts to get a bit expensive again, right? So I thought, what's better than that? And I was thinking about this while staying in a hotel room, and I thought to myself, surely multinational hotels, Hiltons, Sheratons, that type of thing, so surely these guys have kind of got this thing nailed, right? You get a few hundred bedrooms and people living there, um, one kitchen downstairs, and if they want to use it, they've got to buy a meal and pay for it. And each bedroom has its own bathroom. Now, short of buying a couple of hundred hotels in high-rise configuration, the closest thing I could get to that's similar to that, recycles like that and cash flows like that, but is residential, so I can use my residential skills, my ability to do work on it, my ability to be able to borrow the funding. The closest thing I could get to for that is boarding houses. Now, I looked at it for a while, and I looked at the first thing that everybody thinks of when they hear boarding houses. I looked at youth hostels. Um, Too much management, um, yeah, too much stuff generally. The next thing I looked at was student accommodation. Didn't want to do that either. Too hard. Um, Students tend to be on a fixed income, therefore you can't increase the rent to over a certain point, um, and it can be a bit of a maintenance issue. Um, not trying to throw any shade on any particular students. I'm just going to get some hate in the comments from the Dunedin market, but it's just not a market I wanted to be in. I wanted to be in the employed market, and so I started looking at it, going, does anybody do slightly more up-spec boarding houses? And traditionally, the answer's been, well, no, really. But as needs must over the years, when people needed more accommodation, it became more and more of a thing. And so I started setting some stuff up like that myself. I started doing 6, 7, 8, 9 bedrooms. What I found out was the higher number of bedrooms, the better. Also found out that they cash flowed brilliantly. Um, a lot of people are prepared to live in and purchase every week a room to live in. A lot of people have their own bed, dresser, TV, some furniture, but they don't necessarily roll around with a house load of furniture. They can't furnish a full kitchen. And I could do that for a couple of $1,000s down at, Mitre 10 basically, or Briscoe's, and knock the whole thing out really, really quickly. It's not actually that hard to do. And the yields, the cash flow yields were a lot better than standalone stuff. The other thing that I learned over the years was you can't really buy a boarding house off somebody else. You've got to find a good property and turn it into that boarding house yourself. That's where the good money is. And so, to give you an idea of how good they can be, I'll give you this example of Wyoming Street. Now, I'll walk you through the property because it's not beautiful. It's a pretty ugly property. That photo's a bit squished. It is bigger than that. Basically, this property covers the entire section. The entire outside area is concreted because the guy I bought it off used to be a real dead keen fisherman, and he had his fishing boat wedged into that front gate there. But and he just didn't like gardening. He'd rather be out catching fish. And I kind of feel like he's got a point, right? So super low maintenance property, was waved to me, and I went and had a quick look at it. Came to a tender process. It was a couple of years ago now, 2021. There was 3 offers at tender. I exceeded the other 2 offers and purchased the property for $860,000. Now, at that point, this particular property asset was a 3-bedroom property, and it was rented out for $650 a week. So I'm sure you can all furiously jump on your calculators and go $650 a week times 52 divided by 860, and you're getting a rate which going, well, that's it, Steve. That's not actually that great, right? I'll do it. I'll do it. You guys sit tight. It's fine. I'll do it for you. So full service webinar tonight. 3.9% return. So I'm borrowing the money at that stage at probably 5%, and it's returning 3.9. So it's a bit shit. It's cash flow negative. So why did I buy it? Anyway, settled it 18th of May, 2021, and I revalued it 85 days later on. So I spent, when I say I paid the guy that did a lot of work on the property and renovated it, modernized it, did a lot of stuff to this property. So let's have a look at what the property was. Firstly, this is the main lounge in this property at the front of the house. And it was massive. That's a two-seater in the corner, a black two-seater in the middle, and on the right, that's a three-seater couch, and there's space all around it. And then there was one of these weird and wonderful modern fireplaces that burnt pellets in the corner there. So, of course, I ripped out the fireplace, I split that window in half, and this became 3 more bedrooms. So suddenly, straight away, we've gone from 3 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms. We've just doubled the amount of cash flow that you can basically get from the property. Now, it's worth mentioning that this property is a walkable distance from a lot of retail shops. And so a lot of people wanted to live here straight away. I was literally having people approach me as I was renovating the property because, we did a really nice, tidy job of this. Took all that veneer timber off the walls, all the tiles and all the old stuff and repainted everything, recarpeted, rejibbed, we eased the windows. We did an awful lot of work. Got rid of the flowery bedrooms and bits and pieces, got rid of the hard floor and put thick, decent carpet, decent underlay under it. Spent quite a bit on this reno, made it really nice. Didn't actually do a heck of a lot to this kitchen. Put a second oven in, second dishwasher, keep the range hood because it worked. And then out that back door was another lounge. And of course, hey, let's go. Let's chop this up and get some more bedrooms out of it. But then out the back of that was another lounge again. So this property was just under 300 square meters, but only 3 bedrooms. Crazy, absolutely nuts. Total waste of space. So this is going through the kitchen. This is the next lounge at the back there. Now, on the left-hand side there, where you see the wooden units, I kept that as a lounge. We put a dining room table for 3 people in there, big TV on the wall. There's an exterior door just around the corner there. But on the other, I've got to get used to this camera thing. On that side, as you're looking at it, we actually put some walls down there, some doors, and put 2 bedrooms down there, all with natural light and good windows, insulation, noise proofing. We didn't overdo it, but we did, go a lot of the way down through the track. And then at the very, very back, there's a shed outside. And I thought to myself, that shed's bigger than most of the bedrooms inside the property. So we actually made that an exterior extra bedroom. We re-roofed it, we waterproofed it. That back wall where those timber units are on, that's a concrete cinder block wall. So we battened out from that, put some waterproofing on it, and then put a couple of double layers of jib. We fireproofed it from the neighbors next door. We redid the wiring in there. This particular wall on this side was not watertight. We ripped the entire wall off and put a nice glass sliding door in there, gave it extra sun and extra light. Actually became one of the better rooms in the entire property. This is looking back at it. So just to the left of this photo, that window there popped out and that became a big sliding door. And then, lots of sun, lots of light going into the house. There's another view of that big long lounge that was massive going all the way through there. So it all went back out onto the hallway. Essentially, was a blooming massive house. So the garage, a little red Corvette in there. There was never a Corvette in there. I'd have been really jelly. We left the garage there. That's just storage. That dressing room became a double bedroom. We took a little bit off the master. Bedroom 2 stayed as it was. Bedroom 3 stayed as it was. The living room became 2 bedrooms. The snooker room at the very back became 3 more bedrooms. We ended up with 3 down the family room hallway. Kitchen stayed the same. Laundry turned into a couple of bathroom cubicles. Entire kitchen turned into a fire cell. And then the entire shed out the back turned into another livable space. So this was the very, very back room where that snooker table was. Double glazed, lots of sun, lots of light, lots of aluminium. And we actually strengthened up the building by putting extra walls in and making the bedrooms. So instead of getting $650 a week, it did better than that. This thing was huge. There's actually a second kitchen sitting in the back corner, and we actually had to disconnect plumbing and taps and get rid of it because we just didn't need it. But, incredible project. And we rented this out. I've owned it, rented out for maybe 2 years now. It's been full that entire time. These are actual rental statements showing each individual room and the return that I'm getting on it. I pay for a cleaner once a week. I pay for Sky TV. I pay for unlimited internet and unlimited electricity. So if you can imagine that you're a young person, first, second job, You may or may not have a car. You might want to be able to walk into town. You want to live somewhere. You don't have a friend group of other people that you can just rent a 3 or 4 bedroom standard standalone house with, and you particularly might want to live in a communal situation like this for 6 months, 12 months. Don't get me wrong, my longest reigning tenant in a boarding house property, old fella called Ken, he's basically the mayor of one of my properties, as you can imagine. He's been there 9 years now, loves the place. Gave him a TV for Christmas because he's just been such a great customer to my business of supplying rental accommodation. So these are the statements, and this thing's chocker. And I get a 2-page statement because each of the individual room pays me an amount of dollars every week. So it's now 11 bedrooms, and it's now getting $2,700 a week, more than $2,000 a week more than it was getting previously. Absolutely bloody nuts. Setup cost, yes. Didn't need to change the zoning because it was a commercial area anyway. Anyway. So it's also fully deductible because if you run a boarding house which has 10 bedrooms or more, all using the same services can be bathroom, kitchen, laundry, whatever, then it becomes, in the eyes of Inland Revenue, a boarding establishment, which means that it's quasi-commercial property. I've still got residential lending on this. I still pay residential rates, but it's considered to be commercial by Inland Revenue, meaning that a family isn't going to move back in. So we're not taking one property away from the rental pool in Inland Revenue's mind, so they allow you to have deductibility as though it's a commercial property. Now, I don't know if you guys have voted yet, but I have, and hopefully we're going to get deductibility back again, but I've definitely got it on this property because boarding houses are deductible as long as they're 10 bedrooms plus. So 11 bedrooms, $2,700 a week. The lending is costing me $1,223 a week at $860, but the income is $2,700 a week post renovation. With me on that? So I borrowed the $860,000, which cost me $1,223 to service that loan. I did this renovation over 85 days, completed it to 11 bedrooms, and rented it out. I've now got $2,700 a week coming in. I'm pretty happy about this. Plus, I got a new valuation. So I sent my valuer in and said, hey, look, I bought this property a while ago. I've done a massive renovation to it, massive being just over $100,000 at the time, a couple of years ago. I think it was a pretty cost-effective renovation. The new valuation comes in at $1.65 million. So it's gone up $790,000, which is great. That helps me do a lot of things. It helps me because it fixes the problem that I would have had if I just bought another Bush Street. I think you can all see where this is going. So here's the valuation to prove that I'm not full of it. Single story property, $1.65 million. Now, this was at the absolute peak of the market. I've actually just had this one revalued this week, and I haven't got the final number in, but my valuer tells me it will be no less than this number at 1.65. So while the market's shrunk back down again, it's actually warming back up again as well. So we're pretty happy with that. So here's the homes thing showing this was an actual gross figure, $860,000, bought at the 18th of May 2021. At that time, it had a registered an RV or a rateable value or a GV or whatever you want to call it at $650,000. So I actually paid $200,000 above GV for it, but then a couple of years ago, that's exactly where the heat of the market was. So that's fine. I don't mind paying $860 because it's now worth $1.65. Pretty decent. And it recycled, so I got my money back. So new valuation at 1.65 means that if I borrow 60% of that, which I did with ASB, don't hold me on that, they gave me a loan for $990,000. So I took back my $860,000 and I took back my $105,000, my renovation capital, and I had all of my money back in my pocket. And all I had in this property was the bank's money then. So what the bank gave me was $990,000 loan, but I only needed $965,000. So they actually gave me back after 85 days more money than I actually put in. So this project did 100% recycle, and all of my cash came back, which means that I got to use the deposit that I used for this property. I got to use that deposit to buy another property again pretty much straight away. But it gets better than that, folks. Steak knife time. New mortgage, after pulling my money back out, costs me $6,345 per month. But the property earns, when fully let, and at the moment it is, and it has been for about a year now, totally full, $11,700 per month is coming in and $6,300 is going out. So it's cash flow positive by $5,355 per month, which gives me another $1,200 a week every Thursday. Actually, it's every second Thursday, fortnightly payments, but every Thursday, $1,200 more comes into my bank account than goes out from this one property alone. Now, I don't necessarily want to own 100 of these, but if 100 Wyoming Streets came along one at a time, I could, easier than I could buy 100 Bush Streets, because I don't need to find more deposits. They keep recycling. And it's cash flow positive, so it proves my ability to borrow for every particular one that I purchase. So I hope that you can start to see why it is that I really do love boarding houses. Now, I'm going to quickly hit some comments. Do you have to pay GST? No, you do not. This is a residential transaction. There's no GST on rent under this situation. If I provided Airbnb accommodation or food or did a laundry service, they could consider it a hotel, and then I would have to pay GST. What do I charge per room? The little single room's about $195 a week, and I've got a couple living in the big room at the very back, and they like the privacy. It's a much bigger room, and they're paying up to $300 a week for both of them together. Most of these rooms are $255, $260 per week, which I think is more than reasonable. If I rented this entire property out to Kaingaora, I'd probably get double that. Yes, I do use a property manager. The $1,235 per week includes power. I don't pay for water because I'm in Wellington. Woohoo! I pay for the Sky and the electricity myself out of that money. So a little bit of both. Yep, cool. Excellent. Moving along. So the biggest challenge that I had with this is proving to people, or showing people much like yourself on the webinar tonight, that this isn't just a Steve thing. Because if you've watched enough of the videos that I do on Facebook, it's really easy to understand that I've done this for 20 years. I've done it again and again and again. It's really easy to understand that that I know how to do this stuff, but can I make or help or assist or create a situation where other people can do exactly this as well? So last year, something really interesting happened. So I did an event in Auckland, my Cashflow Bootcamp, and a friend of mine that I hadn't seen for quite a few years actually came along to the event, and he was on the cusp, or he was on the edge of doing something very, very similar. So he came to me for some advice, and he took the advice, and the thing that he did turned into this. And I'll play this video for you now.
About 20 odd years ago. And then we both left that company, went our separate ways. And then it was probably maybe a few years ago, I started seeing his mug on Facebook posts, and doing his thing. Thought we'd go along and have a look at. We were at a stage where we had businesses and we wanted to get into property. The market was quite hot. It was right through the hot market. So we sort of stalled for about 18 months. And then we thought we'd come along to the Cashflow Bootcamp course. And we had a look, and then we thought, yep, we'll give it a crack, jump in and have a look and see what we can learn. So I think one of my things was I wanted to get a cash flow business to be able to produce income and then put that back into property. And so we're probably at that stage now where we've got that cash flow income that we can actually put back into property. So it was a case of, rather than just spend it all, what do we do with it? We had a property in mind that we really kind of scouted out for that boot camp, and we thought we'd go to the boot camp, have a look at all the stuff, take all the takeaways from the boot camp, which was really good, and then literally I think it was the Wednesday after they had the auction, and so we went to the auction with some more tools in our kit, which was good, which actually probably saved us probably the course of the fees alone.
Right.
So it was quite good.
Yeah.
And so we did the auction and we won it. So we ended up with a 240 square meter house on 1,400 square meters of land. And we managed to purchase that for a pretty good price. We managed to purchase the property, do the renovation, and then pull equity out to go buy a next property while maintaining positive cash flow. Yeah, I finished course on a Sunday and we won the auction on the following Wednesday. It was a 3-month renote.
Yeah, right.
It was a $350,000 3-month renote. Because we've got effectively a 10-bedroom house now out of the house that we had. So the valuation falls out of your normal 3-bedroom home valuation because there's no comparable sales. So we had to use the methods that we learned on the boot camp to try and work with the valuers, try and get the valuation up. While we didn't succeed to exactly what we wanted, we had a very good result at the same time. So I'm quite happy at the moment. Yeah, like the comment I sort of made before, which was some of the tools that we learned managed to save us probably an easy, $40,000-$50,000 at the auction alone. Right. And that was just one takeaway that we took from it. So I think the ability to call up people and soundboard off people, and not just with the coaches, also with other people in the group, has been quite good. And we actually make up friendships outside the group as well, which is good. But the ability to kind of soundboard off things and just give that reassurance that next purchase is the right purchase was pretty good.
Awesome.
That's probably where the big value is there'll be nothing, if I flip it back the other way, there'll be nothing worse than going to that course, not going to the course, buying a property and realizing it was a shit deal and being stuck with it. That's the alternative. So if you flip it around the other way, it was found the value in it. We came away from it and we were actually looking forward to it, excited to talk to people about this sort of stuff, because sometimes when you talk to your normal friendship group, they don't quite understand what you're trying to do, and you have a conversation about a property or a deal or where you want to go, and the starry gaze comes on, kind of thing. They're interested, but they're not getting it at the same time. So the good thing about the course was whenever you spoke about something, you're all on the same page, and you could all get takeaways from it. So it was, it's been very good. Quite competitive with being to an auction with one of the other group members. So, but healthy at the same time. We discussed where we were. We backed out of it because it wasn't going to work for us at the end of it. So it's quite good. I think with the course or even without the course, I think the biggest thing is taking action and taking the first step. So for us, it was doing the course because that really gave us a kick in the bum to move things forward. But it's about taking action. And the other thing as well is if you do take the course, then take action, because you can take the course and sit there and do nothing, but you want to be able to go and get active straight away and then carry through. That was the biggest thing for us.
So how good's that? So basically what we, I suppose, proved with that one was that that it's not just a me thing. There's these things out there in the marketplace ready to go for just about anybody. And the idea of it was that a high cash flow, 100% recycling investment property means that you can get your own cash back, your own money back out of it very, very quickly. Once your money is out, it's still cash flow positive and it still pays for itself. And like I said, with the Bush Street one, I couldn't do 10 of those, but I could do 10 of these. And I have. It just works. Now, it could be boarding houses, or it could be blocks of flats, or it could be new builds, whatever it is, as long as it is high cash flow and it does 100% recycle. And what I found over the years, and I've said this again and again, is that most people do a property project and make some money, and then they just recycle and do the same thing again and again. They use that one strategy that they're comfortable with, whereas there's so many strategies out there that still work in this current market. And the proof of AJ's deal there was that it works even if you're not me, and even if you just listen to a little bit of information and come away with some tips and some tricks and some things and some confidence and a peer group of people who do this and do make it work. And so the numbers that he generated were legendary. His property valued at $1.8 million, Auckland, 10 bedrooms, 1.65 in the Wellington, 1.8 in Auckland. He managed to 100% recycle his money, and it was massively cash flow positive. I think he was north of 10 bedrooms and getting close to $4,000 a week for his entire property. So this obviously means that he's able to put that one to bed and go and buy another one, which he's done very, very quickly, and roll on to a point where you eventually have a healthy amount of funding available to you and enough cash flow to pay for it so that you can then go and buy some properties that you might want to keep for a couple of decades, which is what I did as well, because I don't want just one property portfolio chock full of a couple of hundred tenancies that are slightly management excessive and have a lot of wear and tear. So what I did with my cash flow from this particular property is I went and bought a couple of brand new units to keep my portfolio balanced. And you might have seen the video yesterday that I posted where I actually did a final walkthrough after receiving the keys for that. Got some tenants moving in on the weekend on that one. So this just works. It just works so, so well. And it's not one set strategy. It's just knowledge and go find what you can find in the property marketplace. And because of that, it's got me all excited about doing another Cashflow Property Bootcamp and bringing this event to Auckland again, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So we're always updating this. And obviously, the biggest update that we'll do for this event, which is 5th of November in Auckland, is an update on what's going to be the key market indicators post-election. Because things are going to change. 110,000 people immigrating into New Zealand. We need 45,000 new homes pretty much immediately. We've got emergency housing coming out our ears. We just don't have enough properties to rent out to everybody at this stage. So, we're scrambling to supply enough properties to house people. And I'm really excited and active in showing people how they can build their own portfolios so that you're self-reliant in your retirement. So this is my whole jam. And I really, really do love this stuff. So once again, we're going to bring the Cashflow Property Bootcamp to Auckland on the 5th of November. It's in the Great Room at Eden Park. So it's a pretty legendary location too. I actually really can't wait. It's going to be like this, totally tables and chairs style. The reason for table and chair style, as opposed to like theater seating where you're sitting right next to people, there's no table, is that people lean on the table, they talk to the other people on their table, they network, they get some great ideas from the other people that are in the event with them as well. It's just a lot more friendly and easier to manage. Plus, it means you can lean on a table and ooh, I managed to make myself muted there, didn't I? How did I do that? Anyway, so I'll go back to the slide. Smart trading. I think this is the strategy that's really going to be active in the next 12 months. It's really, really going to come back. This is where you buy a property, you renovate it, and you on-sell it again very quickly. Now, this means that you can use this income to borrow more money to buy more long-standing hold properties, and you can turn this into a legitimate cash flow for yourself and your family so that you can prove income, so you can borrow more money, so you can do more stuff. Now, we're going to deep dive into this because I think this is going to be a really, really top performing strategy in the next 12 months, like it has been for the last 10 years, except for when the market was retracting or going down. So this is really starting to come back into flavor again. The other thing we're going to do to encourage networking at the event is I'm going to buy you all lunch. So if you buy a ticket to my event, there will be a cooked lunch where you will sit at your tables and chairs, eat some food, network with the other people around you. It's just a great resource to get everybody talking to each other and networking, because I think it's really important to roll that into a really healthy, positive peer pressure community, just like you would have heard AJ in his video and that type of thing as well. So to thank you guys for coming along and listening to my webinar. I know it's been short and sweet, and I've tried to get through some information really quickly. We're going to do an event deal for you over the next 30 minutes for the next 30 people, 15% off all tickets. So I'm not only going to buy you lunch, but I'm going to give you a discount on the ticket price. I know. Promo code is webinar15, and all you have to do is visit stevegoodey.com/Auckland. It will take you through to Eventbrite where the ticket sales are sitting there. And you can grab yourself a ticket, and we will give you a 50% discount with that webinar 15 code. My guys will chuck it into the comments thread as well, so you can link on it. We'll email it out to you. But as I said, for the next 30 minutes, for the next 30 people, 15% off, and you get a full ticket to the event. It's a full-day event. We're going to teach you an awful lot of stuff. Really get stuck into it. So that's stevegoodey.com/Auckland. And the last thing I'd say is I'm really enjoying these Wednesday webinars. We had, I think, 700 people logged in for the first one, and tonight we've had around 550 people. And so what I might do is do another one next Wednesday. Why not? Because, I don't have a life. I just, honestly, I sit here and wait for you guys to come along. So we'll do another slide deck, and we might talk about smart trading, I think. So same time next week, intro to smart trading, and certainly we'll cover some election stuff, right? Hopefully we'll have a government by then. Certainly make things a lot easier, wouldn't it? So grab those limited seats, and in the meantime, I'm going to answer any questions you might have. So roll into it. I did see a lot of questions coming up about with the boarding house with consents. Now, great question. I hate getting consents for anything, but I don't hate it as much as I hate being spanked for not getting them. So I get all of the ones that I have to do, but I'm not going to overkill it. Predominantly with that property, it was non-load bearing feature walls to split lounges in half. So I didn't move any load bearing walls around. I did a limited number of consents that I was required to do so to make it completely legally binding. Other than that, I tried to keep it real simple. I did use my own guys, did the work, most of the work myself, got stuck into it. The property manager does charge me a little bit more for these, but she doesn't seem to mind so much because, she's got a lot of boarding houses now because of me. I've, in the past, set some of these boarding houses up, got them up and running, and then sold them on to other people or kept them myself. And my property manager tends to manage all of them in my area, because then if you've got people, you can move them around different houses to keep everybody happy. I don't really like property management. I think I would sort of yell at people too much to be very friendly and approachable. So I love having the installation of a wall between me and my customers of the property manager. There's no real extra issues with boarding houses. You still get wear and tear. You still have to do maintenance. I don't particularly think it's any more maintenance. I mean, the roof doesn't wear out any quicker or leak any slower, I've had some random issues with tenants, but I don't buy these things without making sure they're going to work, and I'll explain that at the event. I do a lot of market research to make sure that these things are going to be tenantable or rentable. And as I said, this isn't my only strategy. This is just one that I like a lot for the two things that I mentioned, recycling and cash flow. Love both of those things. It means I can use the same amount of money and get into more and more properties. And this one key skill of being able to take stock standard rental properties and turn them into boarding houses very quickly has been the backbone of my portfolio's massive growth for the last 10 or 15 years, to be fair. The first boarding house that I purchased, renovated, and rented out, I've now owned that one for just on 20 years now as well. I think I bought it 2004. So, they do the thing and they do it long term, just like anything else. They just do it with a lot more cash flow, which I love. Can you please explain the fire sale in the kitchen? Yeah. Council wanted to see that the kitchen, where the cooking is done and where fires start, if they're going to, had an external sprinkler, a wall-mounted sprinkler system thing, a fire blanket, and it was a fire cell, which basically means anywhere that there was jib on the kitchen walls, you put 2 coats of jib on that, so that there's a buffer between that and the rest of the house. Essentially, that's the worst explanation of that, but you see what I mean. This property was not actually in a residential zone, which made the zoning change to a boarding house slightly easier. It was next to and surrounded by other commercial properties, which made it easier. There was no neighbours to upset. Can you please give you a copy of this webinar and the last one you hosted? No, probably not. Might try and chuck them on YouTube, though. That might work. Easier for longer hosting. Go find my YouTube channel and register for that, and I'll try and log them all up onto YouTube so you can go back to them for reference if you like. Awesome. Well, that's been some great questions, and my 30-minute webinar has now gone for 45 minutes. So next week, as I said, we'll do another webinar on smart trading. We are just starting to begin to run out of tickets for this Auckland event, the Cashflow Bootcamp. So as I said, visit stevegoodey.com/Auckland and pick up your tickets. And as I said, for the next 30 minutes from now or until the next 30 tickets are sold, there'll be a 15% off ticket price with that promo code. All you got to do is go to stevegoodey.com/Auckland. And what I will do is disappear from here and mute myself, but I'll sit here and answer some questions online for the next 15, 20 minutes. If you've got any questions, great to see a whole pile of people banging through and grabbing tickets to the event. Really looking forward to catching up with everybody again and telling my story, I suppose. There's 3 or 4 speakers that come along now who are really, really great, inspirational people doing cool shit. And I really do love presenting this event. So I think the ticket prices that you'll find on Eventbrite there are very, very realistic, given that we putting on a full day event and giving you a nice cooked lunch as well. So yeah, jump into that, and we really look forward to seeing you at the event and on the day in Auckland on the 5th of November. Grab those last few tickets now, and bit of luck. We'll see you next week for the next webinar series, which we will chuck on the Facebook page, and you can go and jump on there and grab that now as well.